big news that came out yesterday is that longtime play-by-play guy for Alabama football, Eli Gold, would not be in the booth for this upcoming season. They're going to be transitioning from Eli Gold to Chris Stewart. This is a thing that some fans have loved and some fans are kind of against. Part of that because when it officially came out, a lot of people were saying, okay, Eli retired. And then Eli went on a bit of a news spree with CBS and some others saying, I did not retire. The university kind of forced me out. Well, what we heard earlier today that was released by the Crimson Tide Sports Network was that Eli was being, removed from play-by-play duties, but had the ability to stay in the broadcast booth for a day as well as for some other things in the booth. What I think that means, I'm not at Crimson Tide Sports Network, but what I would think that means is to a degree a figurehead as well as, having a legendary voice stay in the booth. But they thought that his energy and, just the overall aesthetic of him calling the play-by-play was something that they wanted to energize and have Chris Stewart that's done a great job. He was the away play-by-play guy last year. And has done basketball for quite a few years now, but have him take over in the booth. So I completely understand where the university and the sports network were coming from in wanting to make that transition. One thing I will say is Gold came out with a statement saying that he was wanting to continue broadcasting for the next decade or so. I don't think that was fully in reality. I don't think that that was realistic for him to have expected that he was going to be able to continue doing the play-by-play for the next 10 years. I do know that he's a legend and has been doing the job, exceptionally well for a long time. However, I just don't think overall him continue to do the job for the next 10 years is something that was actually, within reason. If a lot of fans have pointed to the 4th and 31 call that happened. He was on the one road game he went to this past year was the Auburn game, and the 4th and 31 call had next to no enthusiasm, and it just didn't have the same level of energy that you would expect from a radio broadcast. Part of that's going to be Eli's age. Part of that may have been the health scares. I'm not going to point and say what caused that. But I will say that it does make some sense to me that the university and the sports network decided to make the change to go to Chris Stewart. Obviously, it's as good as time as any. The fact that, Eli called what was going to be Saban's last games. And, now with the new coach, you're moving over to Chris Stewart. So, I'm completely okay with the move. I think that the move was warranted. I'm not on the side of the fan base that's just up in arms. I think that there was a conscious effort to try to retain him as a pseudo figurehead, similar to how Game Day has done with Lee Corso. But, if that's not something he was open to doing and he wanted to just step down be forced out, I guess, instead of, being that figurehead, then, so be it. So, we move on and Chris Stewart takes over. He's a legend in the game. For anybody that doesn't know, he's been calling baseball and basketball and stuff for the university for many years. And he's as good as they come. So that is all on that front. And that is all for the podcast.